Hello, everybody. You know you wait for this day. We're very excited to have you here. You recognize my face, I hope, Johnny. Here we are. And then, of course, the counselor extraordinaire, Holly McGinnis, is here with us as well for another Mindful Monday, or Manic Monday, depending on where you're
we
at.
haven't decided. It's
No.
kind of in between.
Kind of goes all like that. But this is exciting. We've been doing this for, I think, about 13 weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people, we're learning to be better humans, and that's the exciting part. Maybe not Kurt, but the rest of us are learning to be better humans. But we're excited because, and I don't know if you could say the word excited about today's topic, but it's an important topic and it doesn't have to kill you.
No.
There's a way to navigate this, and so this will be very interesting for us to talk about, which is, you titled it when you sent it to me saying we should talk about this, you titled it Okay Grief. Which says so many things, because the truth is, in that sentence, it's okay to have grief. Because if you don't feel it for something that is pretty major, it's worse. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So talk to me about why you wanted to talk about grief.
Because it is the most painful thing that every one of us goes through. And it's not just the loss of a person, but we've all lost people in our lives. It can be the loss of a relationship. It can be a loss of a job. It can be all kinds of different things. But grief is the price we pay for being human.
Yes. I always say when I've lost someone and it's really hard on me, I always say, you have to remember that to hurt this deep, you had to have loved just as deep.
Exactly.
And do you wish you didn't? You
no,
don't.
Not at all.
I don't, yeah,
not
exactly.
At all.
But it's not easy, and a lot of us don't know how to navigate it. It's not until that very first jarring loss that you even begin to look. It's not something we talk about naturally in our culture.
Because we get, first of all, myth number one, grief has no timeline.
Oh, my God.
Number two, the 5 stages of grief are a myth.
And they don't go in order all the time.
No, and there's always going to be people that say, well, no, they are. Well, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, not every human is the same, so your process isn't going to be the same.
No, not at all. You can be sad. You can laugh. You can, laugh 1 minute, cry the next.
Yeah.
I did that with a friend of mine who lost their father.
Yeah.
I had the heartbreaking honor of being there when Dad passed.
Right.
And we cried, we laughed, we felt everything.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of her because it was probably the first time she really had opened up.
Right.
And felt that.
Well, and also culturally, depending on where you are in the world, some cultures are better at teaching how to process it.
Yes.
There is a lot of, I feel like the Puritans brought a lot of that puritanical mindset with them to America. So because for a long time, like I come from, my dad being a Baptist minister, the laughter of grief, celebrating someone's life instead of seeing it, was not a thing. You couldn't be over emotional. It was all, it felt like theatrical.
Stoic.
You had to watch. People were watching. And it doesn't help you. When I lost one of my closest friends, Tim Heidecker, in 2016, and he was a young man. He was in his 20s. And it was the day before I started my new job. And I remember thinking, the other thing is, when you go through grief, you don't get to pick when that happens.
No.
And so I knew, it's a brand new job, I can't not be here. And yet, I had to go to this brand new job and hide in the bathroom when it was too much. And so me and my sister talked a lot about how, what was fascinating with grief to me was I called them grief ninjas. Like, you could be fine 1 minute, and out of nowhere, you weren't fine anymore. But what I learned was, you have to give yourself permission for all of it.
Absolutely. If you have to feel it.
Yeah.
Because the person you are grieving or the relationship you're grieving is over or gone. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the happy memories,
Exactly.
That's
embrace
how you,
those.
Yeah, you have to, I go through an issue, and we're filming this in November.
Yeah.
And it's my father. My father passed very close to Thanksgiving, and every year's different for me. Last year was exceptionally difficult because it fell on the day he actually passed.
Yeah.
And I really struggled. This year was a lot easier. It goes back and forth. There are days where I'm like, wonder what he would think right now. And there are days where I'm like, you should have taken better care of yourself, and I'm angry that you're gone.
Which is also allowed.
Absolutely.
To have that.
Absolutely. We don't, and humans don't like to see other people dealing with grief. We don't like to see people upset.
It makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're supposed to be done with it in a certain amount of time.
Oh.
That isn't the case.
Yeah, I'd deck a few people, but that is exactly the cultural, the feel. Do you know what's about? Because I'm always fascinated by how things manifest in the body and stuff. Do you know the studies have shown that grief can actually alter your DNA?
Really?
Too much grief.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change it but it can be passed to generations. Listen,
Yes.
it's really scientific, and I'm a
Yes.
little smart, but not that smart.
He is right. He is
It
correct.
doesn't change the strand of the DNA, but it changes the way the DNA reacts in your body
Yep.
to
Yep.
trauma.
Yep.
That can be passed down.
Yep.
They did a lot of studies with people who were survivors of war. And all the loss that they go through, and I don't mean fascinating as in that's awesome, but fascinating as in it's amazing the power our mind and everything has. And when Tim had passed, I had just spoken to him the night before. We were planning a movie night, and so it hit me really hard when he passed. The other thing I realized was I started having AFib, your heart beating out of rhythm.
Yep.
And I remember the realization one night going, you're going to follow. If you don't, it's a lot like when older people lose someone. I think about Jimmy Carter right now, who just lost his wife after so long. It's hard to find it, and it affects your body.
It does.
Yeah.
It will. If you don't do it, your body will keep score. The bottom line is grief is not a mental illness.
No.
Grief is not something bad. It's uncomfortable, but it's not bad. It is necessary. It reminds us that we're human. It reminds us to love. And it reminds us how much we love them and can continue their legacy.
Exactly. And I think that as we wrap this section up, I do want to ask if you could give some best tips to someone who is going through something right now and maybe they don't know, what are some things they can do for themselves through this process?
A lot of different things. You might want to touch base with a therapist, maybe 2 or 3 sessions to kind of get it under control. I've done a lot of that in my career. You could, if you've got a safe person that you can talk to that will allow you to just ugly cry and be okay with it. Journaling, I actually have a specific journal to my dad. Express yourself however you want. Go find a empty, if you're a nature lover, go find a cliff and scream. Let the pain come. Let the tears come. Let them come from your toes. Yeah. Because it's like, crying is like washing your soul. We wash our hands to take the dirt and pain away. When we cry, we wash our souls as well.
Exactly. I think grief is one of the most important conversations you can have if you have children. Is the most important lesson to teach them as they grow up. But I would say if you have questions, please send them in. This is a conversation that does not end. And it just like grief changes. It can get, you can learn to deal with it. But once you find it, it's with you. So learn to let it be a positive part of who you are. But I think this is very important. If you have any questions, like I said, please reach out. When you were saying get 2 to 3 counseling sessions, I thought you said we're going to say 2 to 3 counselors, and I thought that's about right.
No.
I need a team of experts. But we love when you tune in. We love to hear from you. And remember, this drops every Monday on our Manic Mania Mindful Mondays. And until next time, it's Johnny and Holly, and we'll see you again.
Bye.